As an INFJ, the ability to see things that others might miss can be a gift, but it comes with its own set of challenges, and that is what we will be discussing in this video. The danger of seeing what others don't is that it can create a deep sense of alienation and frustration. The struggle of an INFJ is not just about seeing the truth, but also about the emotional weight that comes with it. It's one thing to see things for what they are, but it's another to carry the burden of that truth when no one else can see it. INFJs often find themselves trapped in their own minds, trying to process and make sense of their perceptions while feeling that no one else shares their view. This can create a sense of loneliness as they walk through life with the realization that the world they see is different from what others perceive. If you want to truly understand yourself and unlock your full potential as an INFJ, check out the INFJ playbook today. The link is in the description of this video. The danger of seeing what others don't also extends to relationships. INFJs have a remarkable ability to see the potential in people, often recognizing qualities or abilities in others that the person themselves may not be aware of. However, this deep perception can sometimes backfire. INFJs tend to hold on to the idealized versions of others, hoping that people will live up to their potential, but this often leads to disappointment. They see the good in people, but when others fail to recognize their own potential or act in ways that contradict the INFJ's vision, it can cause frustration and hurt. This idealism often puts them in situations where they give too much of themselves, hoping that their understanding and empathy will be reciprocated, only to be let down when the person they've invested in fails to meet the expectations set by their idealized perception. This unique perspective can also lead to feelings of being misunderstood. While INFJs often carry a wealth of wisdom and insight, their thoughts are not always easily communicated. They may struggle to put their complex ideas and observations into words that others can grasp. When they attempt to share their deep thoughts, others might dismiss them as overthinking or being overly sensitive. This leads to a sense of invisibility, as INFJs can find it difficult to be heard or validated. They may feel like they are speaking in a language that no one else understands, and this silence can be suffocating. One of the greatest dangers of seeing what others don't is the burden of knowing too much. INFJs are often painfully aware of the flaws and injustices in the world, and this knowledge can be overwhelming. The constant awareness of these issues can create a sense of helplessness. INFJs are driven by a desire to make the world a better place, but the realization that they can't fix everything they see can lead to feelings of inadequacy. They often internalize these problems, feeling responsible for the emotional well-being of others, which can result in burnout. INFJs also often sense the underlying emotions that others may not express, picking up on subtle body language, tone of voice, or energy shifts. While this ability can make them incredibly compassionate and insightful, it can also make them hypervigilant. They become so attuned to others' emotions that they may lose sight of their own. INFJs can easily become overwhelmed by the emotional landscape around them, constantly absorbing the emotions of others without having a clear boundary. This leads to emotional exhaustion and, in some cases, a loss of identity, as they become so focused on understanding and supporting others that they neglect their own needs. The sense of responsibility that comes with seeing what others don't can create internal conflict. INFJs often feel a deep sense of duty to help others, to heal, or to change things for the better. However, the weight of knowing too much about the darker sides of life can also feel like a curse. There is a constant struggle between the desire to bring light to the world and the overwhelming nature of the darkness they encounter. This inner conflict can lead to feelings of despair, as the INFJ may struggle to reconcile their idealistic nature with the harsh realities they face. The danger of seeing what others don't is that it can lead INFJs to question their own judgment. They may wonder if their heightened sensitivity to the world around them is accurate, or if it's just an overactive imagination. This self-doubt can cause them to second-guess their perceptions, which can be emotionally destabilizing. INFJs may find themselves torn between trusting their inner voice and questioning whether others are right in dismissing their observations. This inner tension can make it difficult for them to take action, as they struggle to decide whether their perspective is valid or if they are simply seeing problems where there are none. Another danger is that this deep awareness often causes INFJs to place a disproportionate amount of responsibility on themselves. They see problems others cannot, and this can create a false sense of obligation to fix everything. INFJs may feel compelled to take on others' emotional burdens to try to rectify injustices they see in the world, even when it's not their responsibility. This self-imposed pressure can lead to burnout and a deep sense of inadequacy when they inevitably fail to address every issue. The desire to change the world can morph into an unrealistic burden that weighs heavily on their shoulders, leading them to feel as though they are not doing enough, even when they are already giving so much. This burden of knowing can also result in a profound emotional exhaustion that is often invisible to others. While INFJs are known for their empathy, their ability to absorb the emotional states of others can be overwhelming. They not only understand people's feelings, but they also feel them on a deep level. This constant emotional input, without sufficient outlets or acknowledgement from others, can drain them. Over time, this leads to an emotional burnout, where the INFJ becomes so depleted that they find it difficult to summon the energy to help others, even though they feel a deep responsibility to do so. The emotional weight of constantly being the healer or the listener can leave them feeling hollow and disconnected from their own emotions, as they become so focused on others that they neglect themselves. Another drawback of seeing what others don't is the dissonance that can arise from recognizing the disparity between their own values and those of the people around them. INFJs are driven by a deep sense of purpose and a set of core values, and they are often repulsed by anything that conflicts with these principles. However, in a world that may prioritize materialism, power, or superficiality, INFJs often find themselves at odds with societal norms. Their vision of what the world could be may seem like an unreachable ideal, and this sense of misalignment can breed feelings of resentment. INFJs may feel that their values are in conflict with the values of the majority, and this dissonance can lead to a sense of frustration and, eventually, cynicism. The more they see the world as it truly is, the more they may become disillusioned by the disparity between their ideals and the harshness they witness. Also, INFJs can experience a deep sense of betrayal when they see people acting in ways that contradict the very principles they believe in. They tend to trust deeply, often seeing the best in others, but when that trust is broken, the betrayal cuts deep. This is particularly true when INFJs perceive deceit, dishonesty, or manipulation, especially from people they have invested emotionally in. When they realize that others don't see things the way they do, or worse, choose not to see them, INFJs can feel a deep sense of abandonment. The realization that they are carrying a truth that others refuse to acknowledge can leave them feeling isolated, misunderstood, and sometimes even resentful. Their desire to help and to heal can often clash with the painful reality of people's resistance to change or growth. Another danger that INFJs face in seeing what others don't is the potential for self-isolation. Because they see so much beneath the surface, they can begin to feel that no one truly understands them. They might retreat into themselves, either to protect their emotional well-being or because they feel like there's no one who can meet them at their level of understanding. This self-isolation is not always a conscious choice, but rather a defense mechanism that INFJs use to shield themselves from the emotional strain of trying to connect with others who don't share their vision of the world. Over time, this isolation can deepen the sense of loneliness that many INFJs already feel, leaving them with no outlet for their thoughts or emotions. Another danger is the potential for INFJs to become emotionally manipulative, albeit unintentionally, as a result of their deep understanding of others. Because they can see beyond the surface, INFJs often know exactly what others need or want, and they can use this insight to influence the outcomes of interactions. While this isn't a malicious act, it can create an imbalance in relationships. Others may begin to feel that the INFJ is playing mind games, even if they're simply trying to help or protect those they care about. The ability to read people so well can sometimes lead to the INFJ subtly manipulating situations to suit their ideals, without fully realizing the consequences. This emotional manipulation can lead to mistrust and confusion in relationships, as the people around them may feel that they are being handled rather than truly understood. INFJs can also struggle with perfectionism, which is often rooted in their heightened perception of what could be. Since they see the potential for growth or improvement in almost everything, be it in people, situations, or even their own work, they can hold themselves to impossibly high standards. The desire to achieve their ideal version of things can lead to chronic dissatisfaction. INFJs often feel that nothing is ever quite good enough, which can make it difficult for them to feel a sense of accomplishment or fulfillment. This perfectionism can also lead them to procrastinate or avoid taking action, as they fear they won't be able to live up to their own expectations. The pressure they place on themselves to create perfection in everything they do can make them feel paralyzed, unable to move forward, or make decisions for fear of making a mistake. Also, INFJs may be prone to unrealistic expectations in relationships because they see what others are capable of or what they could become. Their idealistic nature leads them to believe that others can change or grow in certain ways, and they may invest deeply in relationships with the hope of helping someone become their best self. However, when this change doesn't occur or when others fail to live up to these expectations, INFJs may feel deeply hurt or disappointed. This emotional investment in others can leave INFJs feeling like they've given more than they've received, and they may be left with a sense of emotional depletion. This imbalance can lead to the INFJ questioning whether their efforts are worth it, or whether they are merely setting themselves up for disappointment. Another significant danger is that the constant awareness of what others don't see can lead INFJs to feel like they are living in a perpetual state of vigilance. They are constantly scanning their environment for subtle clues or hidden emotions, and this heightened sensitivity to what is unspoken can become mentally exhausting. This state of hyper-awareness often leads to anxiety, as INFJs fear that they might miss something important or that they are not fully grasping the complexities of a situation. This underlying sense of urgency to decipher everything can make it difficult for INFJs to relax or let their guard down. Over time, this anxiety can escalate into a chronic state of stress, further affecting their ability to function in day-to-day life. The danger of seeing what others don't can also make INFJs feel trapped in a world where they are always the savior or the fixer. They constantly sense the issues that others are too blind to see, and this can lead them to assume the role of a problem solver in every situation. However, this self-imposed responsibility can be draining and emotionally exhausting. INFJs might feel like they are constantly pouring from an empty cup, giving of themselves without receiving the emotional reciprocity they need. Over time, they may grow resentful, feeling as though their efforts are unappreciated or unnoticed. The ability to see what others don't can leave INFJs with a sense of existential confusion. They may grapple with questions about the purpose of their unique perspective, often wondering if their deep awareness is a gift or a curse. The constant inner dialogue about their place in the world and the role of their insights can leave them feeling disconnected from both themselves and others. They may feel like they're caught between two worlds, the one they see and the one others experience, and struggle to reconcile the two. This dissonance can cause them to question their value, their contributions, and their purpose, leading to a sense of existential dissatisfaction. Another danger is that INFJs, in their desire to see the good in people and situations, can sometimes overlook red flags or fail to set necessary boundaries. Their tendency to focus on potential and growth means they may ignore behaviors that are harmful or toxic, hoping that things will change or improve over time. This can lead them to invest emotionally in situations or relationships that ultimately drain them, as they may keep giving to others in the hopes that their care and understanding will lead to positive change. Unfortunately, this tendency can result in INFJs being taken advantage of or burned out, as they fail to protect themselves from people who do not value their emotional energy. Another subtle danger of seeing what others don't is the tendency to become a martyr for the cause of others. Because they see the best in people and are often deeply concerned with the well-being of those around them, INFJs can overextend themselves in the name of helping others. They often put the needs of others ahead of their own, sacrificing their time, energy, and emotional well-being to help those they care about. While this selflessness can be admirable, it can also be damaging in the long term. When an INFJ constantly puts themselves last, they can begin to feel resentful, as their own needs and desires are constantly ignored. This emotional imbalance can leave them feeling emotionally depleted and disconnected from their sense of self-worth. Another danger of seeing what others don't is that INFJs can sometimes get trapped in an endless cycle of self-reflection and self-improvement. Their deep desire for personal growth and understanding can lead them to constantly analyze their own thoughts, feelings, and actions. While introspection can be valuable, the constant self-evaluation can become exhausting and counterproductive. INFJs might become obsessed with the idea of becoming a better version of themselves, which can lead to a sense of perpetual dissatisfaction. They may feel like they are never quite enough, always striving for some elusive ideal of self-actualization, but never fully feeling satisfied with their progress. Seeing what others don't can be a double-edged sword for INFJs. While it allows them to be incredibly compassionate, insightful, and empathetic, it also exposes them to the dangers of emotional exhaustion, burnout, and isolation. However, with self-awareness, boundaries, and a strong support system, INFJs can learn to manage these dangers and channel their unique perspective in a way that is both fulfilling and sustainable. If you want to truly understand yourself and unlock your full potential as an INFJ, check out the INFJ Playbook today. The link is in the description of this video.